3, 2, 1, go!
Now go home and get your shine box.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Go Get Your Shine Box. Tonight, we got I don't want to call it a special, but it is, I believe, our 50th episode, 50th episode. And we're going to do a little something that we weren't that familiar with as far as some of the deep, dark history, but I'll introduce it in a little bit. Guys, say hello.
Greetings from central New Germany. This might be a good night. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, as soon as somebody shuts their phone off.
This is my phone.
All right. I mean, come on. Is this amateur hour or what's going on here?
Somebody's getting a fine for that.
I just turned it off.
By the way, episode 50, is that silver or gold or diamond? Oh, we're it's Alinsky, so it's got to be diamonds.
Diamonds, yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably manufactured diamonds. But,
not that I'm saying, there's just, it's a tendency, okay?
Right.
That's all. It's a tendency.
So are you saying that Alinsky is worthy of diamonds? I don't
Jeez, you're slow, dude, man. Come on.
I am.
Anyway, do we have any dark news?
Well, this is sort of dark news. I was reading a short story.
Okay.
And it goes like this. It has some bearing on our situation here. This guy, he was a bit of an odd guy, He could see the future, sort of like me. And he'd been telling his friends and family, he said, hey, bad things are coming, man. Take care of your shit. Maybe buy a little Bitcoin, some gold, silver. Because hard times are coming. And they said, yeah. Patted him on the head. Yeah, good guy. Well, he kept warning them over and over. And then bad times came. And he said, man, I hope all my friends, they got that gold and silver, some Bitcoin, and they're living free right now. Not like me pushing this shopping cart full of all my shit down the street. And that gave him hope for the future, that they would continue on the master race of friends there. Then one day he's pushing his shopping cart, with his pillow and his spare shoes, 2 different kinds of shoes. And there he saw his couple of buddies sitting on the ground making shoe leather soup. He didn't even bother stopping. He said, yeah, they didn't listen to me. And he just kept going. And I thought that was a sad story. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I see that all the time.
I'm not sure where you're going with that, but
all right. Okay.
I like the shoe leather soup, though.
Now, I mean, you talk about, little Bitcoin, whatever, but did he invest in brass and lead? That's what I want to know, because that's what you need to invest in, brass and lead.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Brass and lead is good too, but the other things are important.
Yeah, we're just busting your chops, Paul. I get the story. So, now,
as a matter of fact, now that the prices have come back down, it would be a good time to buy more brass and lead, because with what's coming in the next couple of years are going to be spicy times. Who knows? I mean, we get into World War III, and I got to imagine the government's going to be like, yeah, sorry, no more bullets for you. No more bullets for you. No soup for you.
Funny you should say that, because apparently last year, the IRS, that's the Internal Revenue Service, spent $10 million on guns and ammo.
Yeah, I just saw another. Another article where
that's a little crazy.
The FDA is training their agents.
Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, FDA. Yeah, because those radical restaurant owners.
Yeah,
nothing to see here. Don't look over here.
And oh, by the way, we just tried to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Hello,
Ah,
knock knock.
we don't even know that. You give it some time if you want to talk about that. Yeah, that's what's like shown in the news right now. They knocked this flag over or whatever. Listen,
Oh,
give it a
geez.
couple of days, give it a day or two. Let's see what's going on because there's some really weird things going on.
Anyway, and just that's the dark news for tonight. I'll have some from the Planet of the Apes next week. Now
Well,
let's get on to a serious topic.
What's interesting is, it was almost a parable. Well, a parable. You know, about the two sons with the two. I'm not going to get into the two sons. I sound like Biden. You know the story, man. The two sons.
You know the thing.
Here's $1,000 for each. You go and do what you got to do with it. I guess the modern day version was one guy took the $1,000, blew it on coke and drugs and or that's the same thing. Anyway, and the other guy invested it and came back home with triple the money. The other guy's broke. Hey, Dad, so you got an extra grand.
Well,
anyway.
I just want to know, like, if I blow all mine and then I got nothing left, if I go to my brother, is he gonna take me in or what?
No, I'm gonna. As you're sitting outside, I'm gonna say, I still got some.
You son of a bitch, you.
I still got a little. Anyway, that's when we steal the Jeep and move to the jungle. But anyway, so yeah, rules for radicals exposed.
Rules for
a lot of people out there may or may not know what Rules for Radicals is and who it was written by. 1971, a book by Saul Alinsky. A
pragmatic primer for realistic radicals.
There you go, realistic radicals as opposed to those irrational ones.
Right.
So the left of today, and not only rank and file, but some of the established folk. May or may not even know that they're using the so-called tactics from that book, and that was a culmination of his so-called talent. But we'll get into it a little bit deeper.
Yeah, well, anyway, the rank and file don't really need to know.
No, they passively use these techniques.
Yeah, and they're given what specific tactics to use at the moment, and they do that.
Yeah, exactly. They're like the lower rungs of the Operation Mockingbird.
Useful idiots, we call them.
That's what Joe was just saying, yeah. A little background, because, we have to know who we're talking about. People out there need to know who exactly we're talking about. Saul David. I believe his name is David, isn't it? So anyway, Saul David, he was born in January 30th, 1909. He died in 72, a year after he wrote his book. Not for anything, but he was walking his dog in a rather affluential city of Carmel, California, and dropped dead of a heart attack.
63 years old?
63, yeah. American community activist. This is, bear with me because this is Wikipedia, so a lot of it's BS. Political theorist. I believe he went to Chicago, University of Chicago, or one of the colleges out there.
University of Chicago.
Political science and criminal justice or social justice before it was called social justice.
Yeah, it was already radicalized though when he got there, I think.
University of Chicago in criminology.
Oh yeah, that was it, criminology. Yeah, which was interesting because he didn't really wind up going into anything like that. But I think
where he was introduced to the Capone gang.
Well, he spent because this was in Chicago. He was born in 2009, and to his claims, he hung out platonically, as Buckley said, platonics. So he didn't have an interfaith relationship. He figured, according to him, oh, he's just a college boy. What would be wrong with hanging out? When all three of us know that that's bullshit. Right. But apparently, again, according to him and a couple other people, this is where he learned some of his extortion tactics. So the guy is not an angel. And I, by the way, guys, I told you I was going to grab some clips of him, and I listened to him, and I know Joe listened to quite a few. Paul, I'm sure you did. And I thought, you know what? No. I don't even want to play the guy. He's a consummate scumbag. If we have to quote anything he said, we can quote it. But I actually didn't want to play him. This isn't if you didn't figure it out, this isn't an advertisement for Alinsky or
No,
Alinsky.
no. I have to say though,
Yeah.
just to, I listened to about 4 hours at least in the last last couple of days of Alinsky himself, recordings, and his as you want to call it, his shtick that he does
Right.
with the monotone and low voice, doesn't raise his voice or
A
anything,
little charming. Yeah.
but so many times as through the interviews you can see him break that, and you can kind of get a glimpse of like really who he really was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he put a show on, definitely a show, and there was another man that was outside of of what you saw, the hidden part, and he was out for himself. I mean, he was a selfish person, and but I mean, he was out for power. That's and that's like the Alinsky way. That's what that's all about, is power, getting power. But it was he basically gained power through people that had nothing. They were
As he called them,
poor.
the have-nots.
And he called them the have-nots,
Right.
but he used them. He
Yeah.
used them to think that they were going to get something. And what's real interesting is that when I had this conversation with Jimmy this afternoon, is that look at all of the places where he had influence and where he where he led, where he was an organizer. Were these places, were they lifted up? No, nothing. He really accomplished nothing.
Yep.
Except for making himself very rich. I mean, he was rich and he was well off. Don't worry about him. No problems there. But he accomplished nothing.
Yeah, and not to nitpick, but he wasn't American. He was Jewish.
He was American. He was born in the United States.
Well, he was a U.S. citizen. That's a completely different thing.
He wasn't born in Chicago.
That doesn't make you American. That's for another show, though.
I guess that's for another show. You racist bigot, you.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah. Jim, you with us?
Yeah, I was desperately looking for the Odd Couple soundbite, but I couldn't find it. So, that was what that awkward pause was. But I don't have a button for.
You gotta have like big Sharpie writing on the button so you can access.
I have Sharpie. I have writing on the buttons. It's electronic, but I was looking for the one that says Jews that are born in Chicago aren't American citizens. So, and I couldn't find that one. So I was like, which one should I push?
No, that's not. No. I said they're not Americans.
Apparently, we need another show just for that.
Yeah, a U.S. citizen is different from an American.
Well, anyway, and this is kind of funky too, because everybody wants to talk about this guy today like he's a saint. And I'm gonna paraphrase.
Wait, who's everybody?
Well, the people that find the guy to be admirable or admirable.
People who are destroying the country. Those people,
exactly.
Let me tell you, there are a lot of people that hold him in high honors. I mean, they really believe that this guy is something to be praised.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the political realm, too. In 1938, Alinsky gave up his last employment at the Institute of Juvenile Research, where he hung out with youth at Joliet, devoted himself full-time. Check this out. This was kind of one of the most important things, I thought, to dedicate him a full-time as a political activist, okay? You know what a political activist is? Because I don't. That's a BS made up word. But anyway,
political
activist is somebody who freaking does the exact opposite of what a civilized society is supposed to do. But anyway, you talk about democracy. In his free time, he'd been raising funds for this is the important part. In his free time, he had been raising funds for the International Brigade, organized by, drum roll please, the Communist International. Okay, this guy was a unabashed, unapologetic communist. Now, I actually thought before I dug into this guy deeper that he came over here as an immigrant, because I can't for the life of me figure out how he was born in Chicago, went through the Depression, came up the hard way, hung out with Capone, who wasn't a communist, and this guy actually used communist tactics and called himself a communist. I don't get it, but at the same time, made himself extremely wealthy through the capitalist system.
Now, you see, I don't know whether I totally disagree with you on that, because I believe that he wasn't a communist. I believe that he used that just so he could empower himself. Because, I mean, I watched a Dick Cavett interview with him, or he was on the Dick Cavett show, and he had just got back from Asia, and he was in
1967. That was
right. He was in Hong Kong, and he was so thankful to be back in this free country, and he was telling how bad it was over there. And the thing is that when he was in this country, when he was home, right, he was using communist and socialist tactics to empower himself. So it was a selfish.
We don't know what
thing.
the guy was. You know,
well, I think it was selfish. I think that he wanted power. He liked to be in the limelight, and he used people that were in poverty and had nothing, and it gave them hope so that he can gain power for himself. That's what I think.
What I think is that it was his nature. He served, and we know this because he said he wanted to go to hell to be with the have-nots. That's a snarky little clip, but he was a servant of the synagogue of Satan. And, people don't like to talk like that, but you don't understand the real world unless you take these kind of things into account.
Well, he said it. He actually came out and said that,
Yeah, I'm talking about the synagogue of Satan thing. That's ongoing since the time of Christ,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the quote became infamous, I guess, if you will, and which led to the dedication on this book. And then his son tries to backpedal it and say, oh, it was about this, it was metaphoric, and on and on and on. He clearly, on multiple occasions and multiple interviews, said he didn't know, he had no proof whatsoever about the afterlife one way or another, nor did he think he would have it. But if he had a choice between heaven and hell, he would take hell, because after all, that's where the have-nots are, and he would be able to formulate them and organize them. And in that aspect, that would be his heaven, because that's his favorite thing to do. And that was... to me,
are we going to read that dedication?
Would you like me to?
Well, Joe, what do you have in your hands right now?
I have the rules for radicals.
Yeah, you have a copy, which, by the way, we're going to read an abridged list. But why don't you go ahead and read that dedication?
Okay, lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. From all of our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which? The first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom, Lucifer. Saul Alinsky. I did not make that up.
Yeah. But,
it's been said, when your enemy tells you who they are, listen to them. All right?
Right.
The guy is a Luciferian, straight up, as are those before him and those after.
And his offsprings.
Yeah, and his offspring. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, if you read some of his literature or listen to him, he's what I classify as a pseudo intellect. He owns a few buzzwords, but the guy is not that bright.
Who's not that bright?
Alinsky.
I don't know about that. I don't know about. I think he's a very intelligent person.
I'll tell you right now, he's not that bright. He wasn't that bright. He learned how to manipulate people. He learned social sciences, and he was he was the kind of guy that would read that book, how to make friends and influence people, and get enough buzzwords in his head to read a little bit of body language to manipulate people, because that's all he did his entire life.
But you don't think that there's a certain amount of intelligence? I mean, you don't think
I
that
didn't
like
say that. Rats have a certain amount of intelligence.
well, yeah, but I think that in order to pull off what what has pulled off, I don't think it takes a dumb person. I think he's got to be pretty smart to do that. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong, but
well,
I think I gotta say that guy was pretty smart.
Well, he had somebody whispering in his ear. Let's put it that way. Does that help?
Well, maybe, but
I don't know. That could be a conversation. Of course, that's also a conversation that doesn't have a beginning or an end.
Yeah.
You know, because we
True.
really, it's just my observation from some of his writings doesn't strike me as being particularly intelligent.
You want to know something else? While I'm leafing through this book, I mean, I just picked this book up this afternoon. I can't even believe it was on the shelf. But after I mean, this book was published in 1971, and this is a reprint by let's see, Vintage Books, a division of Random House in New York. But what I thought that was, I don't know, kind of like makes me like shiver a little bit is that there's a lot of like captions, and there's a bunch of quotes and stuff from Chicago Sun Times, the Nation, blah blah blah, and they seem to want to praise this guy. They really like this guy.
Well, the same reason why there's the presidential press corps meet every once a year. It's a bunch of like-minded academics getting together, patting each other on the back. It's a circle jerk, you know.
I mean, I look at
They
this.
have to. There's certain formulas in their world, and they have to, you know. But anyway, we're doing this for one particular reason, and that is to know your enemy.
Oh yeah.
So let's hit these real quick. I know we don't want to press too much time because we want to get our own list in here too. But some of the key rules that Alinsky outlines, and we'll go down and if you want to have a quick discussion on them, we can do that as well, or just post a comment. You just chime right in.
Okay.
But in no particular order. But power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. The perception of power is often more important than the actual power. And again, I go back to this intelligence factor. A lot of this stuff isn't his in pure originality. He wasn't OG. He took a lot of this stuff from different past leaders, Marxists, communists.
Right. Well, but a lot of a lot of his stuff is like, it depends on how you use it, for good or for evil. I mean, in times of war, when you're at war, sometimes you need tactics like he's talking about,
Well, yeah, but his war, and this is the part that you have to decipher. His war was taking inner city ghettos, for example, convincing them as if they had to be convinced that they were poor and oppressed, and taking that and turning that, organizing them to turn that against the powers that be.
Right, because it was the government's fault. It's everybody else's fault that you're poor.
Yeah, and as a result, although they claimed he got nominally paid, that as a result he got to live in Carmel, California, and they're still living in the freaking ghetto.
Yeah,
So,
and
anyway.
let's not kid ourselves. His war was against white Christian civilization, Western civilization.
Yeah, which is ironic but true. Yeah. The guy was born in the Midwest.
Nobody's kidding themselves, Paul. We know that.
So, never go outside the expertise. I love this one. Never go outside the expertise of your people. It's important to work within your own strengths and knowledge base. This is particularly funny because you see this on social media all the time. And the best way to dispute somebody's, the best way to dispute somebody's argument, because especially Second Amendment arguments, is to come back at them with a professional level of understanding. They'll either block you or they'll disappear because they can't handle it.
Don't we get that during our daily, our daily jobs every day? I mean, you and I deal with that on a daily basis. People coming into our expertise, and they're not even anywhere near our expertise.
Well, yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, the social media. passively uses this in immense amount of ways.
Well, yeah. Look what happened during COVID. Everybody was an instant virologist. You know.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy,
You know,
you thought that would have dropped the salary rate.
yeah, and they swapped over from being an expert climate scientist to become a virologist, and then some legal thing comes up, and they're a legal scholar. It's kind of silly, but it's entertaining at the same time.
Hey, well, and 30% of the people buy this crap. Here's one that's converse. Whenever possible, go outside the expertise of the enemy. And this is his words, the enemy. This means exploiting your opponent's weaknesses or blind spots. And yeah, to your point, Joe, you could look at this and say, oh, this is from Sun Tzu's Art of War. But you can use a gun for good or a gun for bad, I guess. Make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. We see that happening all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But we live in a hypocritical democratic society. So we only have to have the left tell us to live up to our rules. But
yeah, it doesn't work the other way.
No, it doesn't work the other way.
Well, it's kind of like free speech, Free speech only works if you're following the narrative. If you're not, you don't have free speech.
Unfortunately, yeah. And
which is also Luciferian, by the way.
Right. Absolutely. You're going to like this one, Paul. I think, speaking of Luciferian, ridicule is a man's most potent weapon. Humor can be a powerful tool for disarming opponents and winning support. And I believe the humor part was put in there because in yesteryear, the days of old, if you were considered a comedian, you could say anything you wanted. Anything you want and get away with it. Today, not so much, but again, it doesn't matter if you walk around with an Alinsky shirt on, you can call yourself a comedian and use any word in the book.
Yeah, and true, as far as comedy goes, true comedy has an uncomfortable truth at the center of it, and the mockery. That's one of the reasons Trump was elected, because this army of memesters, Pepe and their ilk, rose up and memed him into the presidency, basically.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, here's something. Through his book that he wrote, he has quotes all through it, and kind of based on what we're talking about in the tactics chapter, the quote is, "We will either find a way or make one."
Yeah.
That's quoted by Hannibal.
Yeah,
this is who he is. Who he attaches himself to. It's kind of,
well, he obviously has some.
Wait a minute, he's quoting Hannibal.
Yeah. Yep.
Hannibal, the guy with the elephants.
Hannibal. We will. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
So he obviously has some knowledge of philosophers, philosophies, and probably Greek mythology as well. And probably fancied himself. My guess is he was slapped around and he was probably a sickly kid. And then it's another case of revenge of the nerds.
Probably abused.
Yeah.
Closet homosexual.
I know he comes from nothing. He comes from a poor family. I mean, they had nothing when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what's been recorded.
Right. Well, yeah. Here's another one that's interesting and applicable in today's arena. A tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. It's important to keep tactics fresh and dynamic in order to maintain momentum. I also use that as a reverse on people that I want to tick off. The trolls, if you tell them, hey, we got that tactic down already, so it's time to switch up and start a new account, that's the last you'll hear from them. But again, a lot of people use this stuff passively. They don't actively know that they're using this, but it's been indoctrinated into their brains for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Well, these same people have infiltrated, academia, public education. They've infiltrated the church, obviously government at every level. But the education is the main thing. You can get the kids when they're young, and you've got them for life, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And to Joe's point, the academia reveres this guy for some
Right. Oh,
reason.
they did.
Yeah.
But check this out. That goes along with the rule that you just mentioned. He goes on to say in his book that man can sustain militant interest in any issue only for a limited time, after which it becomes a ritualistic commitment, like going to church on Sunday mornings. So that's what he compares your seventh rule to, like going to church on Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely, if you read between the lines, which are pretty thick, you get what this guy's about. Keep the pressure on. Consistent and persistent pressure can be effective in creating change. And I don't want to read too much. I'll read this other one because this is another, it's very applicable to today's politics. The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. Fear can be a powerful motivator. Now, he didn't invent this. This goes back to ancient Chinese military history. The fact of the matter is, if you notice the so-called woke cancel mob, as soon as you stand up to them, they go to somebody else. For the most part.
I may have used that in my. Never mind. I was gonna say I may have used that rule a time or two.
Well, yeah. Well, we have a rule book of our own.
Yes, let's hear it.
We have a rule book of our own. We have
All
12 rules, and we'll get through them. And I think people are going to recognize these. And again, I'm not going to say that these are did we sit down and conjure these up 100% on our own? They're based on the things that we know as a civilized constitutional America.
Absolutely.
And the difference between our rules as being conservative, white national Christians is that we believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. Alinsky and his ilk, which include the likes of Hillary Clinton and Barack Hussein Obama, believes that we can separate you into your classes. We can teach you victimology or victimism, if you will, and then we can bring you together as a group of victims and make you work against the man. And as Joe said earlier, like we were talking about, all of that produced nothing except the upper crust of a political realm that's going to probably cheat the next election. But as far as the poor and the oppressed, they're still there.
Well, it produced a lot of death.
Yeah, absolutely. So our list, we'll go through it quickly. And number one, and these are no in particular order, but order that they're.
I have one comment to make here, and what you just read, the ninth rule: the threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. But me myself, I don't take the threats. That's you could go ahead, threaten me.
Well, because you're in that 30% margin. That's why.
I guess, but that makes it very difficult for me to relate to people that aren't.
Humans by nature are more swayed by fear. So the threat is a threat.
Fight or flight. Yeah.
You see, when somebody threatens me, I usually strike.
You get angry.
That's what I do. You threaten me.
Well,
before the threat comes out of your mouth, I already took you down. Well, what do you got?
Let's see if we can include that into some of these because we got to get through them quick.
Go ahead.
Take personal responsibility. How's that one? Recognize your own choices and actions. They're the primary factors in your successes or failures throughout life. It's called personal responsibility. Yeah, did we put that on our list? Did we make that up? Did we put our heads together and say, "Hey, I got one"? Not really, but it's on the list because it's a truth. It's an everyday American truth, if not worldwide truth. And guys, you can jump into embrace traditional values, and this has to do with respecting the principles and traditions that our society has put together, including cultural differences, hard work, family, personal responsibility, and the respect for law and order. Pretty basic stuff in a civilized community. So promote individualism, encouraging people to think for themselves, making decisions, and again, taking responsibility for their own lives, because it's amazing when you have skin in the game, what you'll do. We also celebrate success, recognize and celebrate the achievements and successful individuals. We do that all the time, and we sometimes strive to reach those goals. Promote entrepreneurship, which is directly connected to capitalism. Support strong families, encourage the development of strong, stable families, which is the foundation of our society, which, by the way, the 1968 Civil Rights Act joined at the hip, single-handedly tore down the family.
Yeah.
as indicated by the present family situation in the inner cities.
Right.
Defend the Constitution. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's not a mistake, and we can do a whole show on defending the Constitution. And one of the underlying. Go ahead.
Makes me. I was going to say, I kind of like shudder when I think, the family unit has been torn down, especially in the inner cities. Well, when you're in the suburbs, and our families are spread in different states away, and we still have a very strong family unit. When you're living right next to your family and you don't have a strong family unit, like, what the heck's going on? You understand what I'm saying? It's like,
I do, yeah.
It's like it's not even like your family. What? That's how we were raised. Family is everything.
Yeah, and it goes back to values and on and on and on. After this, promote free markets. This is another thing that was probably opposed to some of the Alinskyite stuff. Support policies that encourage competition, innovation, entrepreneurship. It's the American way. This is. This is broken down. The American way is broken down. We broke it down by 12 steps. The next one is encourage personal growth. Encourage people to take personal responsibility. There's no. We didn't make a mistake by having an underlying twine running through this with personal responsibility, because that's where it starts and stops. Reject identity politics. One of my favorites. I'm glad that we came up with this and threw it in, because exactly what I was discussing before. We don't need to tear people down into individual victimhoods so that they can gang up with multiple victimhoods, and then look at the policy procedure of the American way and say, oh, that's bad, because before you know it, you have exactly what Alinsky wanted: haves and have-nots, or as Kenny used to say, demogots and demonogots.
Right.
Finally, encourage civil engagement, and this one I liked. I don't think Paul was necessarily on board, but I'm sure he'll chime in. Encourage people to become active and engaged members of their communities, and in some cases improve their neighborhoods.
You think I wouldn't be for that? Is that what you said?
I thought when we were going over this week, you had a comment about that. Maybe I was wrong.
Well, I'm going to combine the two. Joe talking about family, and that rule you just cited about community. The America that you're talking about saving, basically, with these rules, is unsavable. Whatever is coming, we don't know. But the only way that any semblance of it survives is if we can somehow rebuild the family structure. And that's one of the reasons why they had to go after the family, because once you take the family away, community goes after it, and people are just easier to control.
Yeah, exactly.
Promoting family. Let me ask you, when's the last time you called your mom?
Oh, we talked the other day. So
okay, good.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't that way. People, I've got cousins living out in Seattle. I haven't talked to them other than maybe a text or whatever in a long time. This is not good. People separating. That's another thing. You grow up, you move out of your parents' home. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean moving to Europe or moving across the country. That was came somewhat naturally as part of the Industrial Revolution, but
modernization.
Also it was pushed as a reject family kind of idea. Families getting back together and building communities, friends joining families together and building communities, like you just mentioned about building community, getting involved with the community. These are the only ways that we're going to survive and hopefully rebuild something afterwards. And if people don't do that, they're just lost. They've already lost. Let's put it
Yeah,
that
well,
way.
yeah, and that's why we built this list to be kind of an antithesis to the Alinsky tactic, if you will. And by the way, I'm going to post this because we went through them, and there's a lot of good information. I'll post this list on our site and on YouTube description, and where else? I'll put it on the Buy Me a Coffee, and I'll put a link to that as well, so you guys can see it.
If I can make a quick comment here, and I think that family is like top of the list, but I think that not that it's more important, but the fact of that people won't get out and do something with their lives and get a job and try to not just get a job but just try to be something, try to do something with their lives, try to I don't know.
Well, take some responsibility, and it was self-improvement.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
try to become something. Try to become a homeowner. Raise a family. Try to do something instead of sitting back and letting the government, do everything for them.
Yeah, and that's another big problem is raise a family. Go talk to any young person. And, we were the same way when we were 17, 18. I'm not going to have kids,
Right.
But then after a few years, you're like, oh, well, maybe, But nowadays, these people get constantly bombarded. Don't have children. It's bad for the climate change.
Yeah.
Don't have children. You know what I mean? It's really, this is not healthy. For civilization.
It's not. I could not imagine not having kids. I look at these. I work with a guy that's my age, and he's been married twice, and he's never had kids.
Yeah.
And he's just going to grow old and die. I mean, I'm sorry, but I mean, I'm going to have a bunch of kids and grandkids around me. Yeah. I don't know, family. Like I said, I think that without family, what are you?
Here's the
crumb
thing.
crunchers.
Here's the thing. As far as a male human, you are, in my opinion, you are not fully a man until you have children. I don't know if I can explain it to you. I don't know. You probably won't believe me, but I see grown-ups.
Why wouldn't I believe you?
Well, not you. I'm talking about people who don't have kids. They think their dogs and their toys replace, having children. Yeah, well, look, I've got a blankety-blank sports car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and my two dogs, they're my kids. No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, that is a peeve of mine. There is no, when people call their dogs children, I'm sorry, but that just I just lose it.
Yeah. Or they substitute having a few extra toys for not wanting children. You know what I mean? That is really some sick shit.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I did another cold cut for some reason, but on the background music kind of threw us off. It threw me off. You guys are talking, and I'm freaking producing, and I'm like,
well, anytime we got that 70s, shall we say, questionable
elevator music. Well, I think it was a good show. We put a lot of information out there, and we will post this stuff so you can read it for yourselves. And it is, we took the time to put together a pretty decent list of stuff that will help put people in the right direction, and at least, it's reasonable to look at.
And
so.
go look at it at 10.
Can I just ask one question here?
Yeah. 10mmm.org.
Paul.
Yeah.
I just want to know one thing. What do you think of Saul D. Alinsky?
You never want to know just one thing.
Come on. What do you think? I'm asking you a question.
Well, I've made some, dude.
Okay.
He serves the dark one. Do I have to go further?
Oh, I thought you were going to really give let us really know what you thought. But,
Well, you two
all right.
guys still have jobs, man.
Right. Say good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Take it easy, everybody.